AJ Brown has come out in the media either directly or via a Twitch stream like on Janky Rondos and has complained multiple times this year and last year about the Eagles' offensive woes. Now, a lot of people think that, oh, he's just a diva wide receiver, but I'm going to show you the problems and the intricacies with this issue and kind of breach a conclusion as we close out. So let's talk about it. First up, let's look at what Brown has done in his 55 games with Philadelphia. 5 catches per game, 80 yards a game, 28 total touchdowns. That's some like Julio Jones numbers for those of you who are wondering. Now, he has missed a few games with injury, but for the vast majority of his NFL career with the Eagles, he's been pretty healthy, active, and productive. And that's the key here that builds the first part of my conclusion. When Brown is on the field, he is a producer. And that is what is so important to why he's complaining. Next up, this is a tale of two teams. Look at the statistics from the 2022 and 2023 season, and then I'll compare it to the 2024 and now the 2025 season. For starters, the Eagles were passing the football a little over 50% of the time in Brown's first 2 years as a Philadelphia Eagle. And his target rate, his usage rate was through the roof. There wasn't a play that you could really point to outside of like a goal line play where they're trying to tush push or hand it off to Saquon Barkley on a 4th and short where Brown wasn't in the game. He was an every down player. Look at where we're at now, though. We see Brown in 2024 and 2025 has seen a massive reduction in his target share, and the Eagles are running or passing the football way less. Last year, it was down to 42%. That is a drastic drop off for those of you who don't really understand the difference between passing the ball 52% of the time versus passing the ball 42% of the time. That means 10 catches or 10 targets have been taken away from the team, and Brown getting 30% of those is losing 3 whole targets per game. And now you see with his target rate down at 22%, he's really missing out on 4 or 5 extra targets per game, which is a major issue for a wide receiver of his caliber. So let's quite frankly just call it what it is. Saquon Barkley changed everything. The way that he affects the football game, he establishes pure dominance as a running back. The Eagles also got unbelievably not lucky. They developed the talent of guys like Mailata, Landon Dickerson, I can't remember the center's name off the top of my head, but the replacement to Jason Kelsey. This offensive line has been by far the best unit over the last 2 seasons. The problem with them now, though, I actually will get into in just a little bit. But the Eagles in the last 2 seasons with Saquon Barkley, who last year had over 2,000 scrimmage yards and led them all the way to the Super Bowl, they're 25-5 in the last 2 seasons with a Super Bowl victory on their hands, literally the ring on their fingers. And the Eagles are 8-0 in these last 2 years when AJ Brown has 5 or less targets, meaning the offense has completely shifted away. And so far, it's working out to be a success. However, we'll get into it right now. The Eagles offense is sputtering. They're number 20 in yards per play, 25th in yards per rush, 30th in pass play percentage, and 25th in pass yards per game. Jalen Hurts, in my opinion, is a top 10 quarterback in the league. Some people argue top 5. I wouldn't take it that far. Some people argue at top 15. I wouldn't take it that far. I think he sits pretty comfortably around that 6 to 9 number, or in between those numbers, I guess. I think confidently Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson are definitively better. And then you have to factor in other guys like Joe Burrow. Is he better than Jalen Hurts? Absolutely. But everybody remembers your availability is your best ability. And Joe Burrow has not been healthy enough to put him in this conversation. So Jalen Hurts is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, at least in the top third at minimum. And the Eagles offense reflects that when they pass the football. They're number 9 in the league in pass completion percentage. They're number 8 in yards per pass, number 1 in interceptions thrown, meaning Hurts is leading the league in the fewest interceptions thrown. And they're number 1 in red zone scoring at 80%, which is a gold standard for NFL offenses these days. So, what all does this mean? In my opinion, the reason the Eagles offense is sputtering is because Brown is not receiving the targets. And secondarily, like I said here, the Eagles rushing attack is not working nearly as good as it did last year. Now, there's several factors to that. Multiple Eagles starting offensive linemen have missed games with injury so far this season. They are 1000%, not 100% healthy. Some of them are playing hurt, like Landon Dickerson potentially. And I think that's having a dramatic impact on their success rate at the offensive line. I didn't get any statistics for you there, but I just want to let you know that's the problem. Secondarily, the issue is Saquon Barkley, to me, does not look like he's playing 100% healthy. I think he's had a couple of knick-knack injuries, but as the season goes on, those start to wear and tear. Versus the Packers, you could see the acceleration was there, but the lateral quickness is not what it was last year for Saquon. And so I think these two things are a culmination of why the Eagles offense is utterly failing right now. Yes, they're still winning games, but it has to do with their dominant defensive performances that they've had over the last few weeks, including allowing just 7 points on the road to a Green Bay Packers team that just threw up, I think it was 5 or 6 touchdowns versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I'm very confident in this Eagles defense. The problem is, though, in today's NFL, you cannot relentlessly rely on your defense to win you games. At some point, your offense will be tested beyond its regular means to put up points in a game where you're down. That is the major concern that I have here for the Eagles. Can they do that? And in my opinion, the answer right now is no, based off of their current offensive scheme. My point exactly is the fourth down play at the end of the game for Philadelphia. They absolutely whiffed and forced a jump ball or a 50-50 ball to A.J. Brown on like a 4th and 6. It was a 25-yard bomb. Made zero sense considering that Brown hadn't had a target since the first drive. There were 10 total drives in that game. And that's where I'll get here now. Brown hardly gets his number called in that game versus the Packers. 5 out of 10. I watched the film. I watched every single play from this Eagles offense versus the Packers. I'm talking all 22. And this is what I got personally. 5 out of 10 of the Eagles drives, Brown didn't even get a read from Jalen Hurts on the passing plays that were called. 8 out of 10 of those drives, Brown didn't get a single target thrown his way. 5 of the 29 total passes throughout the entirety of the game was A.J. Brown, in my opinion, the first read on that play. Now, people can debate this and go back and watch the film for themselves, but this is what I recorded. So we're talking that Brown has less than 20% of not only the target share, but the read percentage. Jalen Hurts isn't even looking his way. And not to mention, there was a play in the third quarter where Hurts ended up scrambling for about 6 yards. I think it came with about 8 minutes left in the third. I could be wrong about that. But A.J. Brown comes streaking across on a drag route. There is not a Packers defender within 15 yards. And Jalen Hurts just completely whiffs and misses him. So through the entirety of the game, A.J. Brown got 5 first reads, 3 targets, 2 catches for 13 yards. A massive concern here for me for this Eagles offense. Devontae Smith is a great wide receiver. Dallas Goedert is a great tight end. But those two together cannot be the culmination of the Eagles passing attack. A.J. Brown must be included. I understand that he has some unconventional ways of expressing his concerns and his complaints. But at some point, these have to be valid. And I think that's what A.J. Brown has right now. If you look at what happens when A.J. Brown is the number one option, there's 25 games where he has more than 8 targets, 5.8 catches per game, 105 yards, 17 total touchdowns, and the Eagles are 18-7. That's a phenomenal stat line right there. Now, I know, like I said a few slides ago, where I talked about the Eagles are 8-0 in the last 2 years when Brown has 5 or fewer targets. That's very true. And this stat right here in my opinion, contradicts it, where the Eagles are 18-7. But in my opinion, this is where the offense needs to transition back to. They need to be a traditional passing offense for right now and let Saquon Barkley get a little bit healthier. Ride the back of Tank Bigsby for a little while. AJ Brown has every right to be frustrated and concerned with the Eagles. If they do not get this fixed in the next 3 or 4 weeks, I can guarantee you we will be sitting here having this exact same conversation yet again when the playoffs begin and the Eagles lose either a divisional game or the conference championship. AJ Brown is 1000% right in the situation. Where he's wrong is kind of how he's handling it, but I won't critique that much because he's his own person. He has his own autonomy. This is the way that he best see fits, and I 100% back him on that. He has every right to do what he's doing. Thank you guys so much for watching. I thought this was an interesting breakdown. Leave a comment if you want me to continue to do these because I'm really interested in how this situation in Philadelphia is going to work out. I've thought about some others, like what Joe Burrow is going to look like if and when he comes back for the Bengals, if the Bengals are going to trade him, what his stats are over the last 2 or 3 seasons. And then I've also thought about Brock Purdy versus Mac Jones, the performance issue or the performance differences, and if there is that much of a drop off. So thank you guys all so much for watching, and be sure to like, comment, subscribe. I really appreciate it. Once again, thank you for watching. See you next time.